Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zeng here, and today I'm really excited to bring you a best of 3 set against one of my best Pokemon friends and one of the best players in the world, Wolfie Glick. Wolfie is a player who doesn't really need any introduction, but for those that don't know him, he's won, I believe, 5 regional championships now. He's won 2 national championships and placed second at the 2012 World Championships. So, obviously a very distinguished player. I think most players would probably put him on the very top of the US. Wolf actually finished in the top 8 at US Nationals last year, and he was first in CP going into Worlds. I was actually second in America going to Worlds. And Wolf and I actually used to build teams and practice a lot back in 2011 and 2012, and it's really exciting to play him. You know, we always hang out, we're really good friends, but you know, he's a fierce competitor, and it's always great to feature best of 3 sets against such amazing players. And the reason why this is actually really cool is because Wolf's actually starting his own YouTube channel, so if you're interested in more very high quality VGC content, check it out in the description below. You know, he's been featured on the channel before, but really cool guy, one of my best friends, and an amazing Pokemon player. So since both of us actually won a winter regional championship, we thought it'd be fun to do a best of 3 with our winter teams that we won regionals with, so should be fun. And yeah, if you enjoyed this exhibition and want to see more best of 3s against top players, definitely leave your feedback and show your support by leaving a like. I'd really appreciate it. So without further ado, let's get this battle on the road. Yeah, otherwise, go follow Wolf on YouTube and Twitter. You know, he's finally able to do YouTube, which is something he's been planning on doing for a long time, so it should be really exciting. I know I've enjoyed watching the videos he's put out so far, and definitely someone else to keep you entertained, and it's really nice to see more top players getting into YouTube. So Wolf here is running, like I said, his regional winning team of Dialga, Salamence, Landorus, Kyogre, Thundurus, and Ferrothorn. So this is a really scary team for a bunch of reasons. The first is that my team is relatively reliant on Trick Room or Tailwind. You know, it can use either strategy with Salamence and Bronzong, but he's got a Thundurus, which shuts down Salamence instantly and also gives Bronzong some trouble with Taunt, and I don't have Mental Herb. So the Lemberry on my Bronzong here does absolutely nothing. If I had Mental Herb, I'd feel a lot better about this matchup, but that's not the case. Wolf's also running Dialga, which I think is a pretty interesting Pokemon choice, which restricts me from bringing my Salamence a little bit more. I think it's highly likely he's going to try to take advantage of the Thundurus in the beginning of the game, so I think, you know, seeing something like a Thundurus lead would not be surprising. I think it's very likely we actually see something like Thundurus Salamence or Thundurus Landorus for him to get the Intimidate in. And if for any of that, you know, might have seen Wolf play on stream at Winter Regionals, a lot of his strategy relies on making smart switch outs and putting your opponent into poor positions, which is basically what Wolf Glick does best. So I actually like Bronzong Mawile as a lead here because Mawile puts on offensive pressure and intimidates Salamence and Landorus. So for example, if Wolf leads with Salamence, then he is actually basically forced to switch out. In the back, I still think Kyogre and Groudon are the best options, and I'm going to lock in, and that's going to be my strategy going into game 1. I think both Smeargle and Salamence actually have a lot of merit in this best of 3, but at the same time, right now, I'd rather go with both of my primals. You know, when you choose to only bring one primal, you're giving up a lot of offense, so you better make sure that that 4th Pokemon is really supporting you. Basically, when you don't bring both primals, since you can't bring both Mega Evolutions, or it's not a really good strategy to, that means you're most likely bring Smeargle, so you have to make really good use of the Smeargle. And Wolf actually does lead with what I expect him to, with the Salamence and the Thundurus against my Bronzong Mawile, so this is kind of what I was expecting in the beginning. He's going to get the Intimidate off, which obviously hurts my Mawile, but I also get the Return Intimidate off against his Salamence. Now, Salamence is rendered pretty useless in this position. Most Salamences in the format carry Hyper Voice, Double Edge, Draco Meteor, and Protect. As you know, mine does carry Tailwind over the Draco Meteor, but, you know, unless Wolf has a Fire-type attack here, Salamence most likely is going to either want to Protect or switch out. I think it's highly unlikely you Protect those since that doesn't give you much momentum. So, this first turn, since I actually expect Ferrothorn to come in, I think that I'm going to switch out into my Groudon, and I'm just going to play Rough Thundurus. I think Thundurus here either goes for the Taunt onto the Bronzong or a Thunderbolt onto Mawile, or Protect if it carries it. So it could go for any combination of those, but I'm not too worried about that. You know, Thunderbolt against the Mawile, which is pretty bulky, shouldn't do too much damage, and if he does switch into Ferrothorn, which I'm expecting him to, that would be really, really good for me. So I'm ready to give up the Intimidate. I'm ready to just go straight on the offense and go in on this first turn. Another thing that's really tricky about this matchup, though, is that Wolf will have the speed control basically unless I get a Trick Room up in the late game, and that's really problematic for me because of the fact that he's got Kyogre. Kyogre, if is in a good position against Groudon, can really just end the game outright, and we do actually see the Salamence switch out, which is excellent. Hopefully it's Ferrothorn. It is going to be the Ferrothorn coming in here, so that first turn plays out pretty well here, as long as he doesn't switch into Kyogre, but no Kyogre switching given that Bronzong, which is slower than Thundurus, switches in. So Groudon's going to come out, and that immediately puts on pressure against the Ferrothorn, which is pretty excellent. I think if I actually just went for the Trick Room setup the first turn, you know, Trick Room is tempting, or just Gyro Balling against the Salamence and a Thundurus, but all it takes is one good switch in and switch out, and you can completely reverse the course of the match. So Groudon here is going to be able to get the Sun up, and Ferrothorn is threatened a fair amount. Now the main question is, what does Thundurus do? Does it go for a Taunt? Taunt onto Groudon would be excellent, obviously, but we might also see a Protect or a Thunderbolt. It looks like he is going to go for the Thunderbolt here, targeting Mawile, unfortunately, not into Groudon, and it's going to do down to 82 damage. So Mawile is going to be able to get the Play Rough off, and it does a lot of damage, but you'll see he does not have the Citrus Berry there on Thundurus. So we already know that Wolf's got Thundurus, Ferrothorn, and Salamence, and it would make no sense to bring Dialga over Kyogre, so we know all 4 of his Pokemon at this point. Now, Wolf's a player that plays really safely. He's not someone who is just going to allow you to Fire Punch Ferrothorn and get a knockout. You know, he's one of those players who's really methodical, and that's why he's one of the most consistent, if not the most consistent US player we've ever seen in the game after Ray Rizzo. It's because he always puts himself in advantageous positions, so against Wolf, I try not to make... you know, or I try not to go all in on attacks that, like, I know that Wolf will see coming. So, like, a Fire Punch on a Ferrothorn is obvious. He could switch into Kyogre, which is also tempting. So, I think it's pretty likely we actually see Ferrothorn switch out into Salamence again, and Thundurus goes for a Protect. Knowing Wolf, I feel like that's the safest play he'd make. He could also go for a Thunderbolt onto Mawile as well, so I'm actually going to predict the switch out from Ferrothorn and just Rock Slide and Play Rough here. And it looks like it is going to be Ferrothorn switching out, so been calling the read so far. Hopefully it's going to be Salamence. It is going to be Salamence here. Gonna get the Intimidate off against both my physical type attackers, which kind of sucks. The main question is, what does Thundurus go for here? So he's gonna go for the Thunderbolt here onto Mawile. Is that enough to knock me out? Let's see. I hang on with 12 HP. Missed the Rock Slide on Salamence, so that's actually pretty crucial because I don't think the Play Rough will knock him out. I think -1 Rock Slide plus... actually, I'm not sure if -2 Play Rough can knock it out, but let's see. I do pick up the... I do at least connect with the Salamence here. Oh, and is that a crit? Not even, wow. So that just kind of dunks him, and I'm up 4-2 now, but he was probably expecting the knockout onto Mawile there, which is pretty unfortunate, and now actually I can think to just win the game with full weather control. He's going to be bringing in his Kyogre and his Ferrothorn, but yeah, that was kind of a huge turn there for me, because I did not expect the Play Rough to knock it out, but you know, Mawile is so strong. So, I will be able to have weather control, which is huge. He does have Ferrothorn, which is obviously still a little bit annoying, but you know, I'm okay with it here. I'm gonna... what I want to do here. Kyogre is not nearly as important. I think Bronzong and Groudon win the game here for me, so I'm just gonna switch out into Kyogre. And I'll go for the Sucker Punch here onto Kyogre. Onto his Kyogre. And that should be game, I think. It came down to really Thunderbolt not to hit KOing Mawile, and I think that's definitely a damage roll there, since Wolf's Thundurus seems like it's a little bit offensive on the Thundurus, obviously, given that it didn't have the Citrus Berry. So, let's see. By switching out into the Kyogre, I'll allow him to knock out Mawile, get the free switch and back into Groudon, and then should be able to just take the game from there. What else is there, really? Ferrothorn here, if it had Substitute, could maybe pull something off. I also have to hit Precipice Blades, but with Gravity on Bronzong, that should be fine. I'm not too worried about that. So Mawile really doing its job there, tanking those 2 Thunderbolts. Was able to call the switch outs both times, which was really important, but still, you'd imagine if Thunderbolt 2 KO'd Mawile, this game would be completely different, because 1, I wouldn't have knocked out the Salamence, and 2, he'd be able to get a free switch into Kyogre, and so that's why it's important to invest in bulk. But at the same time, you know, sometimes damage rolls really do make that difference. So I'm going to bring in Kyogre here because I actually don't want to screw myself over by getting Kyogre when Groudon's in, because, or for example, if I have Groudon and Bronzong out, he knocks out Bronzong, then Kyogre's forced to come in, and that gives Wolf another chance of winning. He's not going to go for a Protect on either Pokemon here, so I get a Sucker Punch. It looks like it's a crit too, so just getting pretty lucky here. Water Spout coming out. It's going to knock out Mawile, but that Sucker Punch really should have done like 15-20%, not 40-50%. So, first game, everything going my way, honestly, but I'm excited to see how Wolf adjusts, because, you know, Wolf is one of the best players in the world and one of the best of 3 players in the world. So he's going to get some recovery here from Leech Seed. Ferrothorn, you know, one of the best Pokemon to stall all games. I actually used Ferrothorn both at the 2014 and the 2015 World Championships. I think it's just a really, really solid Pokemon in general, and it's a major threat, right, because it just sticks around for so long, so many teams are ill-prepared for it, and it's even better maybe in 2016. So now I'll bring in Kyogre, or Groudon I should say. I'm just going to Ice Beam Ferrothorn, and I guess if he goes for a double protect, see I want to Fire Punch it, the Ferrothorn, because it's 100% accurate. I mean, if Wolf's smart, he'll probably protect here, but I guess I'll Ice Beam Kyogre for chip damage and just Fire Punch Ferrothorn. He needs a triple protect, I think, at this point. Oh, but he actually protects Kyogre. Let's see if he pulls off the double protect, because the reason why Ferrothorn's the more important threat here is because I don't want him to start getting Leech Seeds off, because that's actually a major threat. Yeah, you can also Power Whip Kyogre here, but yeah, fortunately enough, he actually does protect the Kyogre, which I think is the right play if you're on Wolf's End, because if I make the misplay of going for a Precipice Blades, then you can win the game here, but not the case. Able to knock out Ferrothorn, and now Groudon and Kyogre easily able to seal up the deal. So once again, this game really decided by Mawile hanging on and me connecting with my attacks, which was really fortunate, but can go completely the other way. His Kyogre is going to go for the Ice Beam. That's also important for me to know, because I don't know how fast his Kyogre is actually, so seeing it go first indicates to me it's most likely going to be the fastest of my primals here. So I get an Ice Beam off, that's not going to do much. Precipice Blades here actually misses the Kyogre, which is funny. At this point, I think I'm just going to go for the Fire Punch, since that plus Ice Beam should knock him out. Yeah, not going to take the risk there. Yeah, I should have Fire Punch before, but this is like the point of the game where you're like, there's no way to lose, but if I missed another actually, if he crits me here, maybe, yeah, actually a critical hit might have done just exactly enough since I was at 100 HP. But I figured Bronzong and Kyogre in the back, or with Bronzong in the back, I can, you know, there's not much you can do since he's already taken so much damage. And yeah, Fire Punch and Ice Beam are going to be enough to knock out the Kyogre. So I'm going to be able to win game 1. Even though it was 3-0, once again, like, it came down to Mawile hanging on and knocking out the Salamence. That was the most important thing for me, because it assumed that I had weather control for the remainder of the battle. So that was kind of a huge deal, and I am able to take game 1 in this best of 3. So since you'll be able to watch all the battles on Wolf channel as well, I think we're actually going to split this up into 3 different parts. So this is going to be battle 1. You can see Wolf's battle in the description below. I'll link it once he uploads it. And yeah, I am up 1-0 in this best of 3. So we're going to get on to game 2, and I'll be uploading that the following day. So stay tuned. Please leave a like if you enjoyed this. Please subscribe to Wolfie if you enjoyed game 1, and stay tuned for games 2 and potentially games 3. Alright, peace.